Welcome to Storytime with Tiffany. Welcome to episode 3. Let's just jump right into it because I've been gone and I'm sure you guys have missed me. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about how I realized that I could talk to spirits and the situation that happened to me as I was 10 and a dream, but it wasn't a dream. I had went to sleep and then I ended up in front of the tree in front of my house, and it was 3 spirits, but they weren't there. It was just more than 2, less than 1, and they had asked me if I was ready to leave, and I was like, no. And they were like, you for sure you're not ready to go? And I was like, no, I don't want to leave my brother. I don't want to leave my brother here. And they were like, okay. And then I woke up. And I was like a week later, for whatever reason, it was just an abrupt no school. But it was only no school for me. My brother was in the 8th grade. He had to go to school. I don't know. I went to Medgar Evers in Chicago, this elementary school, and I didn't have school that day for whatever reason. These guys had came to the house. My dad, he had a 442. I believe it was a 69 Cutlass, and it was the first convertible Cutlass that had came in that year, and it was gold. My dad had it painted gold, and it had a black convertible top. And I remember him previously had saying that he was going to, he was like, I'm gonna sell this car. He wasn't really tripping. He was like, I'm gonna sell this car. Nothing, right? So he had just threw a for sale sign on them on there, and these 2 young guys that came to the house and knocked on the door, and I had went and got my dad, and I told him what that there was 2 guys. They wanted to look at the car, and so I remember my dad going outside, and then I remember because I was nosy, I ran to the front window after my dad went out. I ran back up to the front living room and I looked out because we had this really big window, and I went to see, and I could see my dad looking, showing them the car and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went back in the kitchen and I started washing my hair. So I was washing my hair. I was bent over the sink in the kitchen. And as I was washing, I could see under my arm as I was washing it, my dad walked by. And it didn't feel good. It didn't feel at 10 years old. Me and my dad were so in tune with each other. I knew something's wrong, but I couldn't be like, oh my God, Dad, what's wrong? Because if it was nothing wrong, he'd be like, mind your fucking business. And so I just was like, something's wrong, but I just kept going on. And then I finished washing my hair, and then I turned around and I looked, and the door was open, and my dad was just sitting on the edge of the bed, and he just looked at me, and I was just like, something's not right. And so at 10 years old, you don't know what to do, like you don't know. You don't, like, you just kind of roll with what's happening. And I remember the guy coming in and he come sit down on the couch. And I was like, no. And he was like, no, you gonna come sit down on the couch. And he was like, go sit down on the couch. And I was just like, they were nice looking dudes. They were young, 20 something, late 20s. They weren't nasty or anything like that. These dudes was just robbers. And yeah, so I sat my ass down on that couch, and my cousin was with me. She was there, and she didn't have a clue because she came from Evergreen Park. It was nothing but roses, bushes, and it just, she was, I mean, I lived in a cool neighborhood, but her neighborhood was like, yeah, money, okay? So she didn't have a clue what was going on. She didn't know nothing about that kind of life or whatever. And so as we were sitting on the couch watching TV, the guys came out of that room, and they had like 3 big, huge garbage bags full of weed, and they walked right up out of there. And then just sat there, and my dad hadn't come out of the room yet. And I don't know how many minutes it was later. He came out and he ran to the front, and he was like, they just robbed us. And I was just like, Like part of me as a little girl felt a little um fault for answering the door, but I that's what I did. I didn't have any um that's just what I did. I didn't think that I couldn't answer the door. I didn't think that I wasn't supposed to answer the door. I knew later that night when I laid in my bed and I thought, oh, I could have died tonight. Like I was supposed to die, but I chose to stay here. Like as a little girl, that's what you're thinking in your head. Like, on, I would never want my daughters to think or feel like that in their heads. But 10 years old, that was what I was feeling like. I could have died, but I didn't. And I'm here to tell that story. Stay tuned for the next episode of Storytime with Tiffany.